Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, allies. It is Thursday, May 31st, right at the end of the month. We got one last day. Cheers. This is your Cup of Jones. Hey, everybody, let me know if we look okay and sound okay. Everything looked okay and sound okay to me before we started, but this is weird. This is a new setup for Cup of Jones. The increasing quality of Cup of Jones. Cup of Jones was never intended to, look good, you know? This is just, Cup of Jones is just me, alone in the garage. Nobody helps me shoot this. Maybe someday when we get a studio, I can have a little helper on hand that can maybe help. But I was thinking about how am I going to do Cup of Jones with the new setup? Because what I used to do before was we had a camera that was a lovely camera, but it was small and it was mobile, and we had two of the same type of tripod, and I would just keep one nearby and then pop it up and then take the camera off of the tripod but keep the base on so I could just snap it easily onto the same model of tripod. And then I got familiar with the angle of the setup, the shot where, everything needed to be framed. And then we have had our blue Yeti microphone. Now we're using 4 Rode shotgun microphones for our group stream instead of using the Yeti in the back. So I just use that Yeti. So one by one, all of the regular pieces of equipment that I would use for Cup of Jones were not accessible anymore. And so I had lots of different, all right, how can we do this? And one idea I had was, and I will open this week's Cup of Jones by talking about just the new stuff. We have some questions about it too that I can get to later, but we have 3 separate cameras, which I'm not going to mess with because we'd have to have a technician for that. I'd have to be on the desk, basically. That one pointed at that desk, and I was like, maybe I can shoot it there, but the lighting is kind of crappy there. If you saw, it's serviceable, but if you saw the podcast that we put up, if you are a $5 above patron, you can check it out on Friday. You can see Ian joining the conversation like he used to do in GT time, which is great. It means we're not going to have 5 allies per podcast. I'm really excited about that. He's on his own team for bets, the Switcher Snakes. Everything's changing. And so you can see Ian, but the lighting is not great. Especially for a show that we do, especially for something that's Patreon exclusive. And then there was the camera over there, which is kind of near my desk. And I was like, maybe I can swivel that camera over and shoot me at the desk. But there's also the lighting issue. The only lights over there are directly above. So I would just, people complain about the bags on Cup of Jones when I get tired. And the baggage would be intense if the lights were just, coming directly down on me, 11 o'clock, right down. And I'm just like, we put all this time, actually didn't turn on those lights, but whatever, it's all you could tell, into making this look great, and maybe it's time for Cup of Jones to upgrade. I'm farther away, but I can still read chat. Hi, everybody. Grump the Great is up for Cup of Jones. So yeah, I think this is Cup of Jones now. I don't know. We'll give it a shot. It definitely sounds a little bit better, because I'm on one of these better mics. But let's talk about our new equipment. So right now I'm speaking directly into, it's the farthest away a camera has ever been for Cup of Jones. I feel all of you are so distant now. It's like we're on a group stream. That camera now is an absolutely gorgeous FS5 that we have now shot the podcast on. We shot our group stream on. And it's super great. There are so many bells and whistles to it. There's a lot of crazy settings. And what we found is it looks one way in the camera, it looks another way when we shoot a show, and it looks an entirely different way when we're streaming. It's almost kind of like 3 levels of darkness. Like the brightness level is here when we're on just looking in the viewfinder. It's like, oh, that looks great. And like Ian and I really kind of poured over it, and we have a camera over there that we can see it on. And we're just looking at XSplit, and we're like, yeah, okay, that looks awesome. And then I look at the Twitch archive, and Ben just vanishes into this background. It's just this shadowy depths. It's like a black hole of color. And so it does not look like that in the camera. And the podcast, when we shot Frame Trap and when we shot the podcast this week, that's kind of right in the middle. It is a little darker than I would like it to be, but it's not as bad as, so it's like, I don't know. Maybe the streams will always be a little shady. I don't know. Back to our front FS5 shady deals. So we're working that out, and I have a twofold request of the patrons of Easy Allies. One, give us suggestions. No, let us know what you think about how things look. I guess give us suggestions. Not for new equipment. We're done. We've exceeded our budget on buying new stuff. Right now, it's just like extension cables and maybe we thankfully had a new tripod for if you watch Frame Trap, it was a little slanted, and so we broke out the Manfrotto tripod that we used to do for our old camera, not the old camera we used to use, but the camera we were using before that we still had around, and so we're now using a big fancy tripod. And I don't have pictures. Ian tweet, if you go to twitter.com/easyallies, you can see a tweet that Ian sent out of the switcher once it was updated. And the switcher's great because it gives you a preview and a program screen and a view of all of the different cameras that are hooked up into the switcher. And I gotta tell you, allies, it's really cool. It's so interesting what things we can add to this operation that it's like, oh, whoa, what? That's professional. Like, that's actually, we have like 3 monitors over that now, and I was setting up this morning and I was like, oh, this is gonna be so complicated, and we have everything run through a switcher, so if I wanted to, I could just switch it over to the PS4 really quickly right now. But the way that the monitor's set up now is I used to have to like drag stuff over to the edge of one monitor and then run around here and then grab it, and now we have many monitors, and so what I'm watching right now is just a mirror of one of the monitors that we have hooked up to the PC. So setting up chat and then setting up XSplit and then coming over here and just turning everything on was so much easier. It was a little scary getting everything set up because the first time I've done it by myself, but I feel like I'm wearing my big boy pants today, and it's all because of all of you wonderful people. It makes me sad that there might be a lot of people that gave us thousands of dollars during our drive last month to get better stuff before E3 that are probably not here, that might not even be patrons of Easy Allies. And so there's a lot of people to thank. Hopefully those people saw the easy update of Ian and I putting everything together. You will be seeing more angles of how all of this works. We'll, of course, be talking about it during E3. Like I said, you can watch the latest episode of Easy Update. I will also be producing, now that everything is kind of done, I don't know if I'll have time before E3. It'll likely be after E3. But I will do a video that'll just be me narrating, going detail by detail about why this is great, but why all of this stuff really belongs in a studio. It's actually kind of a disservice to some of the new equipment that we have to be set up in a room like this, because for so many different reasons. And so we actually have some comments like that in today's episode, which I'm doing via my laptop. We're not killing any more trees on Cup of Jones. I'm just using, which is great. It means I can check the internet and if I need to reference stuff. I can maybe have chat up on this monitor too. I didn't think about that. But big changes coming to Cup of Jones. Hi everybody, big intro today. Yes, I think we've talked about all that stuff. We crossed 7,000 patrons. We're now above 7,000. I believe we have 7,022. We're currently around 47,000 something. We're over 47K, which means that's a pretty good chance that we're going to be above 46K, which means we're going to start doing countdowns. Woohoo! I would love to get a countdown up before E3. Considering it's our first time ever doing a countdown, I don't know if that will happen. Obviously, it would make sense if it was E3 related. We have not locked down what countdown we are going to do. I have a question coming up. I think our second question today is about top 10s. So that's exciting. It's exciting to have office conversations, studio conversations, not only because like we always do, and that's been a big thing ever since we started EZA, and you know, it definitely seems like we're constantly trudging forward to get to that potentially unattainable goal, but we are close. And so obviously 52K goals are coming into the conversation, 48K goals. Some allies are in favor of a 48K goal, some of us are not. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. It takes a long time for us to make decisions like that. Top 10 worst E3 leaks. Well, nobody would watch that because they don't want stuff leaked. What a weird vibe to do Cup of Jones on the stage here. Things definitely seem official now. It's crazy. The switcher really changed a lot of things. And I know we've had some complaints from people on the podcast that they're like, I won't get to see all of you. I love the wide shot. I love seeing everybody. The bonus now, to be honest, I'm sorry if you liked that, I like to see the reactions. Yeah, you're going to miss reactions. Maybe when Kyle does a joke, you're not going to see my like instant reaction. I think actually Ian does an excellent job on a podcast of timing out, switching between the cameras, of being right on top of the good stuff. The bonus is you get so close It's so great. It's so great to have Kyle open the show. It's so great to have to see us specifically. The show just looks great. It's the best the podcast has ever looked since we started. So cheers to everybody. But of course, we welcome the notes. Just understand, again, the two-sided coin. We want the suggestions, but it doesn't mean we have to take them. There was a lot of work. I am stretched thin, let me tell you. I've pretty much been nonstop ever since the beginning of Judges Week. I have had days off, but I've also been doing things to catch up with friends and family during those days. So I have not really stopped moving since Judges Week. It's very exciting. It's also very tiring. So if you see us kind of potentially, in your opinion, dragging our feet a little bit when it comes to being perfect with the new equipment that we have, understand that a lot of this is very new to us. We're familiar with these equipment. It reminds us a lot of how we used to do things back at Defy Media, but it's the first time we've ever done it in this environment, and it's several months since last we've done stuff like that. So, yeah, I think people are ready for me to start the show. I see a lot of comments every week, and there's no way I can get ahead of it. I don't want to leave a disclaimer. I should maybe start leaving like official disclaimers in every episode of Cup of Jones, like a little italicized thing at the bottom that's like, here's fun information that you should know about where to leave questions in the comments below. And when I try to watch the archive on YouTube of this show after it posts, is it being weird? And it's being weird because YouTube is processing the file. So after I stop going live, it takes a little while. It's a long show, so it takes like a little over an hour. Or a couple hours sometimes, for it to figure everything out, and then the full episode goes up clean. And then if you want to just hold off and you're like, I want to see it clean, wait until the next day, because that's when I put up the audio version of Cup of Jones. And so if you want to wait a day, there's not a lot of hot, spicy information. This is just me talking. I wanted to make this episode quick, but I've already just been chatting away for 15 minutes. Speaking of chatting away, I was on What's Good Games podcast last night. I think that goes up on Friday, so you can go check that out. That was very fun. I shot that actually in the house. I should have shot that here. I totally could have done that now. Now that I'm like comfortable with this, I totally could have done that in here and it would have looked amazing. But no, I was at my wife's desk. Lots of really nice comments. I feel like I skipped more comments this week than I usually do because there's just a lot of people being nice in the comments, so it's not question related or not something that I felt like bringing up specifically to start like a conversation or answer a concern from the community. So for all those people that are not included in this Cup of Jones but commented on last week's episode, thank you very much. Let's do it. Feedback for business. One improvement I need to make with Cup of Jones is we need more jazz. I believe now that we've upped everything, I think we need to up the jazz quotient. And so I need to find a couple more jazz songs. The jazz songs you know and love are not going away, but I think we need a business jazz song, and I think we need an intro jazz song. So the song you're listening to now will maybe be the end of Cup of Jones. I don't know. I think we need to change up the music so it's not so repetitive. And I'm thinking of maybe, because you kind of get a song on a loop for 2 minutes, and so I think it's weird to hear me like right in the middle of a really long comment, and you can hear the jazz song kind of ending. And so I'm thinking of ways of like, stretching that song out a little bit so you just get nonstop jazz. I believe I got those songs from Pond 5 when Cup of Jones first started, and now we have music libraries that I have not tapped for Cup of Jones. So there's whole, just massive libraries of delicious jazz that we could get to. And I know some of you are only jazz. It's your favorite part of Cup of Jones, which is absolutely wonderful. Alexander Zirinov. Alexander Zirinov. More and more new guests come to your shows. Have they asked you why you have a ladder on the stage? We don't. You can't see it anymore because my hand is off camera right now. We don't have a ladder. I put the ladder outside and then forgot to bring it back in. And then we shot the podcast and now it's lore. Now that ladder is gone. Now that ladder has been returned to from whence it came. And maybe it'll come back later. I don't know. Maybe people like the ladder. I don't know. The ladder's gone? Yeah, watch the podcast. There's no ladder. Do we need the ladder? I don't know. It is kind of funny when it's behind the couch or behind the desk that it like looks like, it's like the old classic joke. You're just like, did you know we have a basement now? We built a basement, so it's like, yeah, no, that goes down into the wine cellar where we have our Easy Allies vintage. Brandon K. Gann, when the Allies are doing top 10s, have you as a group already come up with the short list of topics you'll tackle? Or when you come up with them, or will you come up with them when the show goes into pre-production? There's an overwhelming number of topics covered in game trailers, so will they be taken on again by Easy A? Not right away. I'd like to do some weird ones. for the sake of getting the allies excited about working on it and not doing the same stuff that we did at game trailers. But I can imagine, especially something like Scariest Games, it's always fun to do every 3 or 4 years when more scary games come out. It's a fun debate. So yeah, I could see us starting with new stuff and then, you know, maybe going back to old stuff. But yeah, we'll figure that out tomorrow. If we're above 66, we'll be like, okay, what is it? What's the first one? We got a big meeting coming up on Monday, so that'll be a good time to maybe pick that list. Maybe pick several lists. Kevin Jung, did you guys know that Easy Allies is not promoted as a top games creator on Patreon? I have no idea what the standard to be on that list is. Maybe it's worth figuring out. Yeah, I type in feedback now. Or I type in takeaways. So let me type that in. Top. On Patreon. See, it's like an official meeting now. I got my laptop out. I don't know. So yeah, if you go to, he posts the link. I think it's patreon.com/explore. If you go there, and then it has a bunch of genres, and you click on games, we're not on there. Kinda Funny is also not on there. Mega 64 is not on there. No Clip is. What's Good Games is. So, I don't know what's up with that. But I'm looking into it. Yeah, not something, one of the big things that I want to do now that everything is set up too, it's time to start pumping out promos, baby. Let's Get a Studio promo, Welcome to Easy Allies new promo, and I want to, like, YouTube promo, and I want to, if you're on YouTube, go to patreon.com. If you don't know that exists, and drop $1, because if 150,000 people do that, then we got it made in the shade. One thing that I want to explore and kind of try to get in the mindset of and be more empathetic about is the new person to Easy Allies coming into the fold and then just kind of looking around and being like, what do I do? And basically saying like, well, if here are the different types of shows that we have that you might be interested in if you're a particular type of viewer or gamer. And if you want to get to know our community, or if you want to, you know, be more, not necessarily more well-known, because that's up to you. If you want to be more visible on Twitch, here's maybe ways you can go about that. So just general advice to somebody who is like, all right, I like Easy Allies, I want to become a patron, I want to start hanging out on Twitch, I want to help out with production on YouTube any way that I can. Ways to help people do that. So yeah, those videos are coming up. Chris Gorgaris, to think of you guys working hard and being awarded with a studio akin to the one you had at GT is a great thought. But this is probably the most repeated question on Cup of Jones, something basically worded around this, but I think it is prudent because of the different setup today. But now that I've spent over 2 years watching your content daily, I don't think I want that anymore. I often watch groups like Funhouse, Game Attack, and Kinda Funny in their studios, and I can't help but feel it's kind of samey and boring. I love the garage and all the things in it. So do I hear you, Chris. It's unique and filled with things and memories from the people that support you. What sets you guys apart is I feel like it vibes with your attitudes, so maybe consider keeping the garage, and like I think you said before, maybe renovating and updating it. It would be cool to see Easy A and the space we've all come to love grow together. If we were to update the garage, that would cost a lot of money. We did a remodel in our house a year or two back, and that was grueling. It would certainly, there's nowhere we could move, so if we renovated the garage, Easy Allies would just stop. We would all shoot individually in other people's apartments. I would like go to like Kyle's house to shoot the podcast. I don't know, like that would be tricky, and it's not something we could like, let's just do that side and then we'll do this side. Like that side is where all the equipment is, and so we need a studio. I know it's frustrating for people. I know a lot of people have concerns. Maybe it's pointless to get into so many details now. To reiterate a lot of the things that I said before, because again, I just said I'm going to be making a video where I'm going to explain to you like why a studio is yes. But Chris, I'll tell you this: like I'm with you that I want that studio to feel comfortable. I want that to be a place. I was nervous with the gray walls, and we'll get into that in a second, that we were going to make the color back there different so that it's like, see, my skin and the wall is not the same color. There's only so much color we have, expression we have in our faces, as far as like, you know, saturation and detail that you can get. I have a bunch of pasty white guys. But we'll bring all this stuff to our studio. It's not going anywhere. You know, the desk, it's gonna stay the same, and all this stuff here, I'm not keeping it. It's all going, you know. So if there's a lightning, I'm not keeping lightning. So like, it's all gonna go. It's all gonna be there. And I know from your perspective, it must seem really fun, kind of like, you know, The Sandlot, where like we all got our own, you know, Little League field to play on, and we got our tree house, and all the allies hang out in our tree house, and that's well and good, but like, it's gonna be a different vibe. The thing is, a lot of the companies that you've talked about, well, Kind of Funny is different, but definitely Game Attack and Funhouse, like, somebody else is paying for that studio, and somebody else is going to be paying for our studio too, because you are all that someone else. But we will be independent. And so for the first time in any of our careers, for the first time in my life, we will have a studio that is entirely ours. We will have a building. We will have a place that we can go to, that the only thing that is done there is work. Is this the continuation of this enterprise? That changes so many things. And you talk about, like, it's filled with things and memories from vibe. Sorry. What sets you guys apart, and I feel like it vibes with your attitudes. That is a vibe we've never, ever had. I had a really good time doing GT Live and GT Time. I think that was when, you know, Game Trailers was it might have been at its best as far as like really doing new and fun and exciting things and things that made sense in the industry and things that made sense for Game Trailers. And I mean, that was the stage where the Shenmue reaction happened, where Final Fantasy VII happened. Like, there's a lot of exciting things that happened on that stage. That stage wasn't ours. You can go back and look at movie fights. It's the same it's the same studio. It's the same setup. And so it's not like, oh, we're going to set this up and then like, all right, we got to make room for, you know, Screen Junkies. It's like, it's ours. And like that, I think that'll be a new thing. And like, if that's boring, I'm sorry, but it, like, that to us, we're not going to get into that environment and feel the need to be fake or like, you know, professional. It's not going to be the, you know, Eyewitness News at 11. Like, it's going to be Easy Allies in a way you've never seen, all of us in a way you've never seen before. And like, I want that. So, but I like I said, Chris, I've gotten opinions like that a lot, and it's something that I'm going to take to heart, and it's something that we're going to remember the entire time we're setting up the studio. I imagine that's going to be one of the trickiest things we've ever done, is like, what's that going to look like? And especially when we get the space, like, where are we doing this? Like, what corner are we going to pick? I hated the audio in the old GT stage. It was too roomy. It needed warmth. It was a big room. It was bigger than it needed to be. So, and one of the other things too to keep in mind is like, there will probably be like one door to the room in the studio, and it'll probably be a small door. Whereas like there's a big door right there, and it's not really insulated that well, where if it's a smaller room in the studio that we're shooting stuff in, that means we can just put, you know, padding everywhere and really make it nice and cozy. Jawad Khan, with some of the shows being Patreon exclusive, have you guys considered cutting out some interesting discussion segments out, maybe 5 to 10 minutes in length, of those shows and making them available to everyone? I feel this would meet a middle ground where those shows in EZA get more exposure while keeping the episodes Patreon exclusive. Good idea. We're not going to do that right away. What we are going to do is I agree with the concept of giving people a taste of Patreon exclusive stuff. And so we will either do an extra episode and then have a series of episodes that are just Patreon exclusive. So there is a full episode that you can watch, but the rest of them are Patreon exclusive. And if that doesn't work, or if we have time in the future, we'll start doing stuff like that. So I'm not going to put that as a takeaway because that's stuff we've already talked about. It's just us trying different things in a sequence, you know, making a list of the stuff that we can do to help make people more aware of the stuff that's Patreon exclusive. We've had concerns from people of like finding and getting updated on that stuff because they're like, I'm a patron and there's Patreon exclusive stuff. How do I see that stuff and how do I not miss it? And so we're going to be updating ways of how we archive that stuff on Patreon and how we make people aware of it. Kif, specifically about E3, now EZA is well established. How is setting up appointments and whatnot going? This is kind of a cross between personal and business, but it's going great. What sucks is I think we're just under half going to appointments compared to invitations. So to give you a perspective, we'll probably get in the ballpark of around 100 different requests for specifically come here, talk to this person, or play this game, or demo this, or interview this. A lot of that stuff is tech too, which is sucks because we don't really do tech, and it's a bummer to turn down stuff like that where people are like, hey, we have this really cool device or this really cool piece of equipment that's coming to games. I drool whenever CES happens, and I'm just like, yeah, not really Easy Allies. Maybe in the future we can cover tech as well. But it's going really well. I gotta tip my hat. I don't know if he's in chat right now. I haven't really been paying attention to chat, but Mr. Daniel Bloodworth is the Babe Ruth of our just knocking it out of the park every time with our E3 scheduling, and not only appointments and dealing with publishers and developers and getting that stuff set up, but when it happens, being really conscious of like when we're going to be talking about certain games and how that stuff is going to be packaged out. Talk about splitting stuff out and putting it up separately. Like, that's the big time when we do that. So if you just want our discussion on Spider-Man, or you just want our discussion on Last of Us, like, you can find that exclusively, or find the day that it went up. And yeah, Blood's amazing. We currently have 45 appointments out of 105 invitations. Cool. I didn't know if Blood wanted to do the official count of that, but cheers, Daniel Bloodworth. Thank you very much for doing all the work that you do, especially with how obsessed I've been with equipment. I don't know if you could tell. One of these days I'll crack open this closet. I think I'm going to get some more plastic bins that I picked up at Container Store last week. But I've been like very studio focused, and that's not just setting up fancy equipment. That's like sweeping and just getting rid of a bunch of stuff. There's a big mountain of boxes. I got my box fort out there that unfortunately I'm gonna have to break out the X-Acto knife and chop it all up and recycle it. But I had a wonderful time, several fortnights in my box fort. Thank you all. Yeah, Amanda's actually out of town this week, and I'm just not getting a lot of sleep and working on all sorts of stuff. So it's good. She picked a good week, because I am inaccessible this week. But I'm accessible to all you patrons here on Cup of Jones. But yeah, it's great. I'm really excited. And because I've been so equipment focused, it's really now, probably today, that I'm really going to start going back and looking at all the embargoes coming out from Judges Week, and looking at all the appointments that I have, and getting ready for all of that stuff. But yeah, we're like just over a week away, everybody. It's happening. Alex AI, I just rewatched the Mole stream from last year, where a certain ally had to try to sabotage the stream. Sabotage. Is there any chance for a glorious return of that format? Probably not, because the Mole, wink wink, whoever that was, when we did that stream, I believe that Mole said that they didn't enjoy doing that. We finished the stream, and the Mole was like, well, that was kind of dumb. You know, like, and I think that's one of the things, you know, we've had discussions in the past about what we've deemed quote unquote appropriate for us to group stream before. That's been a topic that's come up. And it's kind of been a racy topic sometimes, but honestly, it's really as simple as us having fun or not. And it's the same thing with the Mole. We all kind of looked around and we're like, did we enjoy that? Did that work? And that was a suggestion from our community. That was back when we had the group stream selection committee. And so people can still vote on what we're going to be group streaming, but, you know, when we do tournaments and the like, but, probably not doing the Mole again. Maybe we could change up the rules and stuff like that, but, it was basically one person had to we had to play a multiplayer game, and one person had to be difficult. And it's kind of like, that's going to happen anyway. You know, maybe it's not like there's no clue reveal at the end of the podcast, but somebody's going to slow us down. That's for sure. John, have you or the other allies considered applying for Twitter verification? With E3 approaching, you may see an influx of followers. Of course we will. And as I understand it, verification can help provide analytics as to who is visiting your profile and other engagement scores, as well as provide additional security to your accounts. John, two things. I can answer this question really quick, and then I will move on. Two things. One, they're not doing that right now. Twitter has a strict no verification policy. Until an unforeseeable later date. I don't know if they've announced when that's going to be lifted, but yeah, they're not doing that right now. That sucks. What also sucks, I've tried 3 times. I applied for verification for Easy Allies when we first started. I haven't done that since. Maybe we can try that with Easy Allies. I have tried on 3 separate occasions. Amanda is verified. I am not. It's a bummer. And I just get I saw some people being like, why? I don't know. All you do is you get a message back from Twitter. It's kind of like a college application. Twitter's just like, no. You're like, all right, why? And they're like, you're not verification material, pretty much. Like, they say a comment that's like, your request does not meet the standards of what we consider verification worthy or whatever. I don't know. So, nope. And I even try to say, maybe I should word it this way and be like, there are a lot of Joneses on here, okay? Like, Brandon Jones is not some crazy unique name. Like, I need people to know that this is me. Mr. Mags, since the Patreon is currently over 47K at the time of making this comment, would it make sense to be feasible or be feasible to have a 48K goal to sustain the growth and continue to push to the desired studio goal? Yeah, goal. Yes, we'll talk about that on Monday. No promises that we'll come to an agreement, but we'll talk about it. Morgan Mohala, is there any way... These things are like hour-long conversations. There's 9 of us. If all of us need 5 minutes to talk about it, that's an hour. So it takes a long time to really be like, okay, we're good. Because I think one of the issues that we had early in Easy Allies is we would make a lot of decisions. Somebody, when we would hang out for the group stream, would be like, hey, I have an idea. What should we do? And Kyle's like, that sounds great. And Blood's like, yeah, that's great. And Damiani's like, awesome. And then we just do it. And then later, Brad's like, what's going on? Or Ian's like, I wasn't there. And we're like, you were just talking to Huber. And so we didn't, so we really try to slow down the process of decision making now and really make sure everybody has a chance to tune in. Or if somebody's frustrated, don't leave angry. If someone's like, I don't like that, but whatever. Like, no, let's explore that. Let's get into it. If you have a concern, let's make sure we all talk about it. Boy, your top 10 deliberation is going to be fun. Morgan Mohala with the triple threat. Pow, pow, pow. Question 1. Is there any way to get the Twitter schedule posted on Patreon too? The Twitter schedule? Oh, yeah, so we tweet out our schedule. That's right. Blood can maybe talk about that. I can see analytics without being verified. Whoa! Blood don't need no verification. Personally, I think it means we don't need a 48K goal. Really need to start thinking about what to put after 50K. Correct. Yeah, Blood is in the... I didn't want to out Blood, but Blood is in the not 48K camp. So blame Bloodworth. Our new show. Hashtag blame Bloodworth. Is there any way to get the Twitter schedule posted on Patreon too? Meaning, when we take the schedule from easyallies.com and post it on Twitter, should we do a Patreon post as well? Sure, that's Bloodworth's call, because Bloodworth does that, and I'm always terrified to give Bloodworth more work. Number 2, with the new equipment getting implemented, will there be a comparison video of the old original equipment versus new equipment, so that we can see the improvements for ourselves? Maybe. That's work. I don't know if I want to... I don't know. I guess. Maybe when I do that, studio video, maybe I can talk about that stuff. Jeez, I don't know. Hopefully you can see the difference. It was a lot of work setting this stuff up. Number 3, how are you holding up during these busy E3 days? I'm tired, Morgan. The Allies care about your well-being and hope it isn't taking its toll on you. E3 takes its toll. E3 deserves to take its toll. E3 is climbing to Valhalla, but when you get there, it's really great. The thing is, right, there's different types of Easy Allies fatigue. There's the fatigue when I'm just not taking good care of myself, meaning when I have free pockets of free time, I just cram them full of catching up on shows and movies and games that I want to check out. I was determined this week to finish Curse of the Moon, the Bloodstained thing. And that was hard. The end of that was a little tricky. I played that on Veteran, and some of those last bosses are a pill. And so I'm just sitting there playing, should I be playing this? I gotta finish it. Pixel Jump Monsters 2, I also played a bunch of. But lately, the craziness has just been the kind of non-stopness of it, meaning I'm getting okay rest, but I just work until I go to bed, and then I get up and then get back on the horse. So haven't seen Sean in a while, and that sucks. I haven't seen my boy German Efficiency. So this is kind of personal business, but we'll move on to the next one. But Morgan, I'm stoked. I tell you what. If you were asking that question right now, I'm stoked. I feel like Anderson Cooper right now. I feel like this is just great. And it's something that I've thought of watching Cup of Jones. So I'm like, well, it's Patreon exclusive. It's just me by myself. Should Cup of Jones look great? Does it matter? But now it's easy for it to look great because we have a bunch of new cool equipment and setting this up. And it's nice now because the desk is set up. So later we have Fiasconauts coming in at 4 and we're ready. Let's do it. It's not like I do Cup of Jones with the couch and then have to move everything out. It's kind of nice it'd be nice to set this up beforehand and then come in the morning for Cup of Jones and just be like, click. Let's do it. Alex Pisa, how often would you like special guests at EZA in general? The more the merrier. We don't have a cap. I think obviously we wouldn't want to have a special guest on the Easy Allies podcast every week, but it's fun to have guests in there. We've been talking about some collaboration with Fiasconauts that's coming up soon. I would definitely like to get a guest on next month's Fiasconauts at the end of June. I was just talking to that person recently, so that'll be exciting. And Ian was talking about somebody else possibly. Again, as I talked about before, collaborations are always tricky because it's to a street, and so sometimes we've offered, that person said yes, but we weren't able to make it out. Sometimes they offered, we said yes, but then it didn't work with our schedules, and sometimes one of us just doesn't respond to the other. It's nothing personal, we were all just really busy. The Finnish ally, instead of this week, and admittedly it has not been like a major effort. When we had our big meeting, we had our last like huge meeting, I threw collaborations out at the group, and people weren't like thrilled. They were like, yeah, we don't need to do that. If it comes up, that's great, but we don't like, that's not a big wound that needs to be bandaged right now as far as like issues that we have with these allies. And so yeah, admittedly that hasn't been something, no, I try to use that mouse to move stuff on this laptop. So admittedly that hasn't been something that we're like ravenously trying to figure out at the moment or get better at. Arlo would be amazing. Arlo would be amazing. Arlo is a puppet. I don't know if that's terrible to say. Arlo is a streamer. Arlo is a really great streamer that happens to be blue and fuzzy. The Finnish ally, instead of This Week in Easy Allies, a show that was recently pitched on Cup of Jones, wouldn't it be a better idea to drop a 5 to 10 minute teaser segment on YouTube a day or two before releasing the full podcast? This would require less work than an Easy Allies clip type of video and would achieve a couple of things. Since your main channel doesn't currently have any form of gaming news content, this would scratch that itch. You'd be promoting the Easy A podcast on YouTube in an appealing and more accessible way. You might get better advantage of the buzz of a game announcement, rumor, leak, and drive traffic to your main channel. You could tastefully promote your Patreon by adding a 10-second "This is a clip from our upcoming podcast. Please check out our Patreon to get early access clip at the beginning of every video." Just to give a few examples, here's some sexy topics from recent podcasts that have been warranted with their own YouTube video. Sexy topics, every one of them has an appealing title and length. Rumor, retro developing Star Fox racing game. This was 10 minutes long. Thanos appearing in Fortnite, 8 minutes. Spyro Reignited trilogy announced, 10 minutes. I'm not saying you should do this every week, but I'd love to see you guys give this a try during E3. Yeah, I don't know about YouTube, because I wouldn't want clips like that clogging up our YouTube. I don't want you to go to the YouTube, like, podcast playlist and be like, which ones are the podcasts and which ones are the promos and which one, it's like, I just want it to be podcast. But, I could see that kind of being fun. Something that we don't do that we should do more of is just clipping video out and tweeting it. Just clipping out things. Kind of funny is Ace is at this, where they, especially with Party Mode. I've never watched a full episode of Party Mode, but I've experienced a lot of it because they're really good about clipping out like a 1 minute, really funny segment of Party Mode, their group stream basically, and then posting that. And so that would be fun to be like, hey, you missed a group stream tonight. This was a funny moment from it. Yeah. If we had a social manager or media manager or somebody down the road, that would be fun. Or maybe throw somebody some bones and get them to do that. Great suggestion. Michael Reimer. And I will do my best to memorize that. Last name pronounced Reimer. R-Y-M-A-R. Reimer. Like Mercedes. Regarding reviews, would you ever consider adding additional info to the review at the bottom left? For instance, how long the reviewer played the game for, if the reviewer played the previous game, what the previous game scored on EZA. So for instance, State of Decay 2, hours played 20, played State of Decay 1, yes, no. Score for State of Decay 1, 10 out of 10. That's State of Decay 1 is not a 10 out of 10. This is an example from Michael Reimer. Not saying it's vital, but it'd be interesting to know what experiences the reviewer has had with the franchise. Are they coming into the series brand new? What did EZA score the previous game in the series? Obviously, the old review would still be up. Not sure if this type of info would be useful to anyone else. Yeah, I don't know about the bottom left. I could probably say no to that. That wouldn't be information included like in the video. I could maybe see something like that trickling into the description on YouTube. I could also see that coming up because if you, as you were presumably here on patreon.com/easyallies, leaving comments on Cup of Jones, then you are familiar with when we do reviews, we put up a Patreon post, and I try to have a little backstory whenever I put up a Patreon post for a game that I reviewed. And I encourage our other reviewers at Easy Allies to do the same thing, to basically like make that Patreon post a letter to everyone to be like, hi, I'm Ben Moore. Hi, I'm Michael Huber, and I approve of this review. And here was kind of my thought process going into this review. And now that I'm at the final stage of like done with that review, moving on to the next one, just kind of one last post-mortem blog post, basically. So that's a perfect opportunity for that. And maybe stuff like hours played, the previous score, who reviewed that game when that was scored, that information like that could be could add value to those posts. Jordan Butendyke, please tell me EZA HQ will also get a decent bump in security. Of course. I know Sophie is tough, but I think some added measures are needed. We have added measures. We have a security system now. We have a camera that I can boot on my app and look at the garage. We have we've increased our insurance. We've made the necessary steps, but thank you for being concerned. Snowcone Guy, I like it whenever Easy Allies has guests on your shows. Looking into the future, I would really appreciate some interviews. Of course, they don't have to be forced or a regular thing, but it would lead to some really interesting discussion, in my opinion. And I recently had a thought. Easy Allies lives in the LA area. Legendary video game composer Grant Kirkhope also lives in the LA area. Hint, hint. He is a really nice bloke who always answers tweets and who has appeared in many formats as a guest. When I pointed out that you two or 10 live in the same area, he liked that tweet. Of course, it's up to you to ask or not, but if you ever should, chances look good in my opinion, and it would definitely lead to something great. That's all. Owen Jones, look behind you. It's a three-headed monkey. It's lightning. The Snowcone Guy literally said that, and I think Snowcone Guy said it was his first comment. I saw him in chat earlier today saying I'm watching my first Cup of Jones, or it's my first comment on there's Snowcone Guy. What's up, Snowcone Guy? Well done. Good question. Yeah, you don't have to twist Daniel Bloodworth's arm to ask Grant Kirkhope. Bloodworth is a big fan of game music and a big fan of Kirkhope, and I believe friends with Kirkhope. I don't know. You never know who Bloodworth is friends with when it comes to game composers. He used to do a show called Backtrack back at GT that would be fun to bring back one day. Bring back Backtrack. The Backtrack bring back. Salty Backtrack. Yeah, Grant Kirkhope would be great. I definitely want to up the interview guest star quotient when we get a studio. I'm not super into having hundreds and thousands of people in this industry know where I live, and so I'm keeping that to a minimum. When something like Cory Barlog just kind of drops in our lap, or when it makes sense to just have a friend of ours over on a Fiasco announcer on the podcast, then we've been doing more of it. I think since we started Easy Allies, we definitely have more of a frequency now of fun faces popping up on different stuff. But something I would much like to do, now that we got the switcher and now that we're back to GT time levels, it brings back memories of GT Live, and that's definitely something I would love to do, an Easy Live variant once we have the studio. Dave Howells. I mean, what's interesting is GT Live was kind of like the precursor of the group stream, because that was the most we would all gather together for a stream, unless it was Until Dawn or something fun like that in our pajamas, which, man, that was the best. So yeah, I think about GT Live. It's it'd be great to get back to that because we don't do that anymore. And it's well, wait, we totally do. We do that every Tuesday night. It would just be a different show. It'd be like group stream with guests. I don't know. That'd be weird. It'd be interesting to see what form that show would take. Dave Howells, I'm genuinely curious about your shooting schedule and overall content production at present. That's a broad question. Are you happy with it, or do you feel like it's something you can improve upon, especially because of the recent surge in support? Given that the current base of operations for Easy Allies is your home, you're obviously the person on the team who can most easily shoot or stream something. I neither want I shoot or stream something that looks good. I mean, anybody can take their iPhone and make a video. I neither want or expect massive details on the other allies' personal circumstances, but I feel like a little bit more context on why we don't see more small bits of content cropping up from the allies would help. You've obviously just invested quite a bit in the garage. Do you see this resulting in more use of the location by the team? Or are you going to see the same amount of content until the studio relocation happens? Even some more use of the garage, say for example, for allies streaming slots, where their home setup is, to be blunt, much lower quality. Or perhaps shooting the monthly Q&A rather than they're together rather than from separate locations. I kind of like the separate locations vibe of the Q&A. I kind of like the fact that we are all online. I wouldn't like any of us to be bunched together. Sometimes we've done that on Q&A and it's been a little weird. I kind of like all of us hanging out in our home. It's very relaxed. I like not showering before the Q&A and just being or not shaving. I like being kind of grungy. The Q&A is us when I think it would be fun to do the Q&A like that even after we get the studio. Having the Q&A be us at our most casual, slowing everything down. And especially now, Dave, with E3 coming up, it's not like we're going to have some big uptick with production or stuff that we shoot here. A lot of this was specifically for E3, to make E3 look better than ever. And now that we have all this equipment set up for our shows to make the shows look good, it does not speed things up. It does not make things easier. It makes things, if anything, more complicated. There are more moving parts now. There's a little bit more work to make it look better than it has before. So it's not just like, well, people can just stroll in. Like, I still live the same distance from the other allies, so it's up to them whether they want to make that drive and be here when we do stuff together. One of the other things too that you have to understand is it's like when people aren't here, they're working on their stuff. Like Ben works on Patreon. Ben works on he has his own little D&D team from that specific Patreon tier. He gets ready for Tabletop Escapades. He gets ready for Frame Trap. And he reviews a lot. Huber and Ben are constantly reviewing and working on games. And so when you're not seeing them pumping out content, they're working on that content. And so it's not like this having a new camera is going to open up pockets of schedule time for them to work on something else. Like, they would have to do less reviews. And I think they're really happy with the stuff that they're focused on and the stuff that they're doing. So I know it seems weird. I know on the outside it seems weird that, like, why aren't we getting just all these little speckles of crazy different types of videos? And it's because we're not going to meet to do something small. If we all get together, we're going to do a bunch of shoots that day if we can. And the more we tack on to that stuff, the more tired we're going to be for those things, and potentially the more mistakes we're going to make if we just do one thing after another after another. I feel bad because I'm going to have to start tacking on stuff to meetings we're going to have this week because I have Judges Week stuff to talk about. There's a lot of embargoes lifting. Bunch of embargoes lift tomorrow, and I'm not going to have videos ready. Apologies. Dave Howells, done. Jason Wallstrom, I saw the most recent episode of Easy Update, and it's very exciting seeing all of the new equipment, but I have to ask something, and this is something I've been curious about since the beginning of shows in your garage. The air conditioning solution. I know there have been times in the garage especially during the summer, where you guys are obviously hot. There has got to be some kind of a solution, one where it's not too loud. I'm wondering if you have consulted anyone about this problem. We haven't consulted someone like we have with our security system or insurance or anything like that, so like, maybe when you talk about improvements to the studio, that's something that somebody could come in and like set up an air conditioning solution. I will tell you this though. When we remodeled our house, we lived in the garage. Amanda and I and Sophie and our dear old cat, cheers, Mr. Albus Dumbledore, lived here in the garage. And we explored many air conditioning options, and none of them worked, really. The best air conditioning option is to open that door and to open that door and to turn the fan on, because we're by the ocean. There's a lot of breezes going that way. And so it just kind of helps airflow increase. And doing that will get it cooler than anything else. If we close all the doors and set up a system and hook it up so it's just like spitting out the hot air and pumping out cold air, it's super loud and doesn't work that well. Like, we would literally turn all of the lights off and be here at night and have like an air conditioning system that was set up the correct way, and it was like, okay, it just wasn't doing a lot. It was not in any way better than, again, opening both of those things and letting nature do its thing. So but yep, that's maybe something we could quote unquote remodel. If we hit 48, 49K and then stay there for like a year and we're like, wow, that studio is really not going to happen. Oh, well, let's spend some more money on the garage. Maybe that's like the next thing we can do. Ben Ramirez, previously you mentioned that some allies, for lack of a better description, are full-time employees for Easy Allies, while others are part-time. This is based on the amount of money that they received. If the 50K goal is to reach and the following months is reached, and the following months are not reached again, will this mean in order to keep the studio, some allies receive less money in order to continue with the studio? Potentially, yeah. I'd prefer for all the allies to be full-time employees and continue to do amazing work together, and for that reason, I think it will be best to do the studio goal different from the Patreon. I'm not at all familiar on the price or for rent of locations in California or the size of the location that you will need for all the allies to be together, but if the 50K is reached only 1 month, I assume that this will cover maybe a month or two of rent of the studio. Yeah, again, we'll talk about studio, more specific stuff when I make that studio video, but yeah, that's a concern that some of the allies have. Now that we're getting close, some of the allies are like, let's talk about how this is going to work financially. I think one thing, and maybe this comes up in a later question, I think, Ben's got another question too. I think hey, we got a studio, let's have another fundraiser might be in order, we got fancy stuff before E3. It might be nice to make a list of specific studio-related equipment. Like, this is stuff that you might not see on camera, but we just need now that we have a studio. We need more furniture. We need, it might be nice to have that. Like, we're in the studio now. Let's stay here. Let's make sure that if we drop below this goal, we have put a little extra money aside. And that's the thing about that 50K goal. Like, it's not like, again, if we really, really wanted to, we could all tighten our belts and get a studio right now if we really wanted to. That would be a terrible idea. But like, the 50K goal represents a nice cushion that we can fall back on if need be, if we fall to 49 or 48K. But if we fall to 49 or 48K, we're going to be basically fundraising 24/7. We'll basically just be streaming nonstop from that studio until we get back up there. Might need to go get more water. Thirsty. These lights are hot. Ben Ramirez continued, I know better stuff for E3 just happened, and now you're focused on E3, but if you can chat with the allies and maybe to test the waters, you can do a Patreon poll to see how many patrons will be open to the idea. Sorry to double dip, but here's something... Oh, that was for the previous question. Sorry to double dip, but here's something extra that I wanted to bring to your attention, well, with love and respect. And if I'm wrong, feel free to ignore this part and correct me. But for the fundraiser of Better Stuff Before E3, 3 goals were reached by this amazing community. And if I remember correctly, a dance-off was offered after each goal was reached, 10K, 20K, and 30K. However, the allies only danced twice. Once for the 10K goal and at the end of the stream, and I know this is completely selfish on my part, but I would love to have another dance-off now that the new cameras are in place to have an amazing 4K gift of all the allies dancing. It's good to know that, yes, while we are shooting in a 4K camera, we are not streaming in 4K. We do not post the podcast in 4K. We're not 4K yet. We're shooting with the 4K camera, but we're not 4K yet. So I don't want people, because a lot of people are like, that's not 4K. It's not. You're right. 4K, it's too big, too much, and not worth it for us right now. I think it'll make a couple people happy, but it will not increase our patronage. It will not make us more money. It will just make stuff harder. But hopefully we will get there. That is a goal. And yeah, I'll bring that up to the allies. More dancing. I'll put that as an official takeaway. One last dance. Or one more dance. One last dance is, sounds sad. All right. Where do we go? It's the tough part of scrolling around now as I miss my place. Stephen Perry, most players have some sort of sponsor tag before their names. How would you feel about me repping the Easy A tag at Street Fighter V tournaments? I'm not asking for sponsorship, just want to show my love for this great community at tournaments. Steven's apparently been getting back into competitive Street Fighter. And hell yeah. Yes, you have my official thumbs up. That might not be prudent, but that's the first time I've ever been offered that, so how can I say no? Tyler Travis, when can we expect the most amazing betting special on planet Earth? That's not true, but it is fun, and it will be the end of next week. Probably the Friday or Thursday before E3, right at the end. That kind of kicks E3 off for us in many ways. We'll be potentially unlocking some things during that betting special, so it's always best to do that as close to the betting special as possible. Gulp. Sellermore. Name is pronounced Sellermore. 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 Or if you imagine Ben as a merchant, seller more. Just a small suggestion, during the podcast, there's always water bottles, beer, Red Bulls, Pellegrino on the desk. Since you have so many EZA and video game themed mugs, it'd be nice if the other allies made use of them. Tell me about it. It's not a big deal, but it adds a little bit of professionalism as you guys continue to make improvements to your setup. Also, who painted the garage? Me, baby. Me. The paint was all me. I picked the paint, I painted, and then I took all the painter's tape off. It's not painted everywhere. It stops around right there. But I was like, never gonna get on camera unless we're like maybe doing a VR stream or something. So like, I'll get there in the corner one of these days. I still have painter's tape up there on the edge actually. But I wasn't totally sure of whether they were gonna like the paint. So I wanted to see it under the lights, and I wanted all the allies to come and be like, huh? It deserves a second coat. I only put one coat up. So like maybe one of these days I'll take everything out again and get back up there with the paint. But I was nervous, man. I was nervous picking paint colors, because you get the little paint tab, that looks like one thing. You get the paint itself, that looks like another thing. You put it on the wall, it looks weird right away. And then when it dries, you're like, oh, okay. So like there's so many different scary stages of like, you know, painting something. And it's like if I lived in an apartment with 7,000 or 150,000 other people, and it's like, do you like it? You know, what if people are like, I don't like that color. Like, sorry. That took me 8 hours. If I find those 8 hours sometime later. Daniel Kozlowski. What about podcast betting segment team shirts? Very popular comment. We've gotten this many times. It's a brilliant idea. I just listened to the latest podcast, so that means one shirt for each of the 4 teams. Gorgeous Gorillas, Red Grouse, Droopy Eagle, Switcher Snakes. Each shirt could have an image of the team mascot and the team name, and you could make one shirt that says "Time for Bets" with an image of each of the 4 teams. There are shirts that you could get redesigned every year when the teams change up. I would buy each one of these shirts. So what do you think of this idea? I love it. Definitely a takeaway. We've heard that before. Betting shirts. Betting shirts. So hot right now. Betting shirts. Kenny Montenegro, I wanted to ask if there's a chance for a 5-people podcast instead of the usual 4. That's how we're going to do it. We just did 4 for this last one because we forgot we need 5. I mention it because there's more space at the table and because Ian is concentrating more on the cameras. Just a quick thought I had. Keep up the good work. Yeah. Yes, Kenny. Yes. Meaning 4 people at the desk, Ian at the switcher. Back old GT time style. I was just wondering if there's anything in the works for collaborating with Game Explain and Colin Moriarty more. I recently enjoyed when Ash was on Friend Code and when you were on Colin's podcast. Yes, those were enjoyed. Game Explain we have been kind of back and forth with lately. Yes, I believe Damiani is like the main Game Explain guy, which is why Ash was on Friend Code. It's just a scheduling thing, when they're available, when they're close by. I had a good time with Colin. I would like to explore other collaborations, like I just did a thing with What's Good Games. We've been talking with the Completionist forever. I would love to work with the Completionist. I would love to get the gals from What's Good Games on our podcast. I would love to collaborate with Mega 64. They're in San Diego. They're so close, and they're Disneyland related. So I'd love to shoot a Disney video with them. So I think I want to like go off. It's kind of like before you do New Game Plus. I think I want to like check more people off the list before I go back and do more people. But all of these things just a lot of times start from just like, hey, let's collaborate, and then people are interested on social media, and so that stuff can happen as well. But I'm more interested in getting new people, baby, because I think new people, once you get past that initial introduction into a community, I think the second time has diminished returns of those people like, yeah, I know them. I watched Easy Ally stuff and it wasn't for me. So I think we just need that initial hello to say hi to people and introduce people to Easy Allies. We still get people. What was the? Is that the Game Trailers guy all the time, and I got it somewhere. I think I got it on the Easy Update video or something. Somewhere that was nuts. Somewhere that I was not expecting to see that type of comment, and so we want to get that. Those people look familiar. And Superman 321, you need Andrea Renee on a podcast as a Golden Vulture. Yeah, try to get Andrea into something when it was Judges Week. There's just absolutely no time. And so one of these days, I'll buy her a plane ticket and we'll make a collab happen. I'm going to try to get on What's Good Games in person, possibly this summer. I might plan a little San Francisco trip and go up there and try to get on some stuff, primarily for Red Dead Radio. There is a Red Dead podcast done by Mr. Jared, Mr. Beautiful Jared. All right, Chris Snow. Now we're getting personal feedback. Jared Petty. I keep forgetting Jared's last name. But I like to take a break before personal feedback so I can see the drop in the audio when I'm exporting it. And I go, oh, that's where I switched to personal feedback. And this should be a new jazz song. You know what I mean? We got to up the production value of Cup of Jones on all fronts. Andrea is the busiest lady in the business. It's a fact. I'm sure she would love that moniker, as like a tagline, but it is true. I have never met anyone in this business that knows more people than Andrea Renee. Period. Maybe Jeff Keighley. Chris Snow. I remember way back when Brute Force for Xbox was touted as the next Halo. When I bought that game on its release date, I can only remember a massive amount of disappointment to find out it was nothing like Halo. Do you have any games you feel that way about? Just a total and utter sense of disappointment. I should have prepped for this. Nothing jumps to mind. I remember, not in the way that you're thinking of. I remember playing, you brought up the Xbox. You spelled it wrong, but you brought up the Xbox. I'll fix it for you. There you go. There's no dash and it's a lowercase x or lowercase b. I remember playing 13 for Xbox. It is a Roman numeral 13. It is a cel-shaded shooter, very interesting art style. And I got stuck at one part and couldn't finish the game. And that pissed me off so much. And that was Xbox, yeah. And that was frustrating. Tim Geddes on Frame Trap. That would be great. Tim Geddes would be a great fit for Frame Trap. So yeah, that really pissed me off. But I had put several hours into the game up until that point. So not in the way you're thinking, where like you crack open a game and you're like, what is this? Yeah, that's probably like Super Nintendo era stuff of really having no idea what a game would be. I think once it got to the PS1 era, like I really knew what I was getting into. Like I didn't really make a lot of impulse purchases like that. And if I did, I was not expecting a lot. If I was like, all right, let's see how this crazy game is. But if something jumps in my mind, I'll bring it up. Gaspard, in the past, while I've been hearing snippets about how much you thoroughly enjoyed Mad Max and the feeling it gave you as you traversed the desolate wastelands, I've had it in my library since it was a PS Plus free game and didn't give it a whole lot of thought outside of your comments here and there since I'm not one for open world games. I find a lot of times when I play open world games, I feel like I get frustrated with not having a clear goal outside of a waypoint far in the distance for some story thing I don't care about. Despite this, I decided to give it a chance since I'm trying to clear up my backlog, and boy am I glad I did. I love exploring this world. I love how attached you are to your car. I love going to a place and having it very clearly and explicitly say to me after I get everything that you are done with this area, move on. Excellent point about that game. I love stumbling upon things and being rewarded for doing so. This is the first time I've had this kind of an experience. Not even Breath of the Wild managed to get its hooks in me like this did. That's awesome. So my message I want to signal boost to all the allies, if you have any chance to give, if you have any time to give, please give it to Mad Max. Gaspard wrapped up what I have to say about that game perfectly. That's it. That's everything that I love about it. I love a good third-person vehicle-based action game. Twisted Metal, but you can get out of the car. I loved it. Very fun. And really interesting, that's the same team, same people that are making Rage 2. So it's going to be interesting to see like the first-person shooter version of that. So we shall see. What is the most exciting update coming to Disney parks over the next few years to you? Excluding Star Wars Land, as that's an easy answer. Well, come on, man. That's really exciting. Dale, I don't... Like, I'm interesting when it comes to... I'll give you a couple that are not anywhere near as exciting as Star Wars Land. But I don't check the Disneyland blogs every day because I don't like to get too excited about that stuff because it takes a long time for us to get. Like, I know that there's Spider-Man rides and an Avengers ride that's coming to California Adventure that's going to be really fun eventually, like an Avengers Land that they're building. I think 2020 is when that opens. So it's like, cool, I don't want to think about it, you know? Like, because what's the point? I can't play it, you know? Like, it pains me enough. I can't play it. I can't experience it. It pains me enough that Red Dead Redemption 2 is however many months away, 6 months away. And so it's like... ignorance is bliss. It's nice to just not really know about that stuff. And so I like going to Disneyland and seeing a poster for something, being like, what? Oh, they're adding a thing there. Not because, like, you know, I consider myself a big fan, but I'm not, like, so obsessive as to know a lot of that stuff. So my knowledge of far-reaching improvements to Disneyland are pretty vague. I know that Bugs Land is going away, and they're replacing that with something next to Cars Land. Something Avengers specific. Or something, something Marvel. And I know that there's a Star Wars hotel coming to Florida that's gonna be really cool. And at the end of June, we're going to get the big update to Pixar Park, I think it is called, Pixar Pier, which is used to be the Paradise Pier at Disney's California Adventure. So it's the very, very, very south end of the park. It's the area that looks over the big body of water where they do World of Color. And instead of it being like, California, now it's going to be all Pixar related. And they're adding, they're changing the California Screamin', which is a fun roller coaster, the only loop in the Disneyland Resort on a roller coaster. They're changing that to the Incredicoaster, so it's going to be Incredibles related. And we went there and checked it out, and they had snow cones, and they had lemon snow cones, and it said, "It's lemon," in quotes. And I was like, oh, it's lemon, okay. And I didn't get it. I didn't get the joke. And then later, Amanda was like, burp, burp. She said the joke, and I was like, oh, lemon snow cones. that's not disgusting or anything. Alex Pisa, will Brandon Box Ford Jones make an appearance at E3? No, the boxes are going away. I'm sorry. CJCW, Perfect Dark came up in the latest podcast, at the time of this writing at least, and I know you love GoldenEye, so I guess I'd just like to hear you talk about your favorite first-person shooters from over the years, or even biggest disappointments if you'd like. Nah, let's talk about the good ones. Snow Cone Guy, there you go. Thanks for the Snow Cone Guy. Yeah. GoldenEye was my first. I played Doom. I think GoldenEye and Halo were really the first times where I was like, ooh, this might be one of my favorite new genres. I think I really like shooters now. I think up until before that point, I was really into third-person action games and side-scrolling platformers primarily. And it was just kind of started getting into role-playing games. Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger, checking those out. Didn't play like a ton of role-playing games in the PS1 era. But did play a lot of shooters. Played Half-Life for the first time on the PS2. Sorry, I know that's not the introduction to Half-Life that you want. I consider Half-Life 2 one of the best video games. It pains me that Half-Life 2 is not one of the greats. That hurts. But yeah, loved Half-Life 2 when that came out. That was definitely profound. GoldenEye was so crazy. I became so obsessed with that game on so many levels. If there was a map editor in GoldenEye, I probably would have not played any other game on the Nintendo 64. Played a little bit of Turok. I remember Turok. Played some Red Faction. Didn't really play a lot of PC games until this century, really. Until we started Game Trailers and we had like a PC at work. That's when I played Half-Life 2. That's when I played Half-Life 2 for the first time. Half-Life 1 I played on the PS2. Half-Life 2 I played on a PC for the first time at work. Played Battlefield 2 a lot at work. I remember that was so great back in the early Game Trailers days when we would all stick around the office late at night when we had everything was done, and we'd all like, all right, and we'd all get on separate PCs that were all LAN together, and we would all play Battlefield 2, all being in the same room and yelling at each other, and that was the best. I missed that a lot. Trying to think. Let's see what Dark Forces. Yeah, didn't really play Dark Forces. I only played Dark Forces and Jedi Knight and Outcast and all that stuff later for Game Trailers related stuff. Descent, kinda. Didn't play Descent though. Gotta get Red Dead into the Hall of Greats soon. Yeah. I tried to get GTA 3 in and that was not done well, so. And Perfect Dark was a lot of fun. Perfect Dark was, at the time, my most anticipated game ever. Spider-Man 2 and Perfect Dark. I remember in college coming out and those being one of the first games in a long time that I was counting the days, where I was seriously like just sitting in class like, is it out? Is it out? Diamond Crusader. Diamond Crusader's back. What's the name of your Switch? The one you can pick in the system settings. Mine is called Coco. As an extra, my smartphone is called Erlkönig. My PS4 Nier, N-I-E-R, and my now resting Wii U Tempest, my 3DS Berserker, my PS Vita Kagura, and my PC Darksaber 2. Roman numeral 2. I don't know what the name of my Switch is. Do you, name your Switch? My login's Trailer Jones. I don't know. Is that, are those names you, actually typed into settings somewhere, or is that just you naming stuff? That's cool. I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, and they talked about cars being named, where they were like, oh, that's the name of my car. It's like, I don't have a name of my car. I'm not really a naming person, which is interesting because I love improv and creating characters and, role-playing and stuff like that. But, I don't name objects that much. Maybe I should. Maybe because I have pets? I don't know. Joseph LaRussa, if you live in Boston for college, nothing. There's no name. My Switch. Easy A Switch. Because technically my Switch is the official Easy Ally Switch. Joseph LaRussa, you lived in Boston for college. What did you think of the city? Loved it. When was the last time you were there? Would you recommend living there? Has it changed much? Yeah, living in Boston was great. Summers get pretty hot and brutally muggy. Because I was only there for one summer because I would leave. I would come home for summer in college. So I was only there the cold months out of the year. My first car was named the Betty Rumble. Let's see if other people do stuff. Naming stuff. My Switch is my Switch. There are many like this Switch, but this one is mine. The last time I was there was probably a decade ago. And living there is great. It's a great old city. There's a lot of history there. It's fascinating that the city only like 200 years ago, just like not only was not the city wasn't there, but like there was no land there. It was water. Boston's big landfill. They brought in a bunch of, dirt and sand and filled all that water in because they were like, there needs to be a city here. And so they put a city in. If you go to the top of the Hancock's Tower, if it's still there, they have a cool map where they do an overlay of the city and show the waterways and show what it used to be like. But loved that town. I didn't have a car, so I took public transportation everywhere. Loved riding the T. Loved walking down Newbury Street. Loved Newbury Comics. Loved the Common. Loved the North End. Loved going to Sox games. Loved wearing a big heavy coat, going through the rain with a cup of coffee. Loved I miss Boston. I want to go back. Yeah, Boston's a great town. The harbor's full of tea, says Zephyr Moon. The Confused Hulk. A question/pitch. A GTA style game wherein you commit crimes but are sometimes thwarted by Batman or a superhero like him. Eventually, your crimes bring you into contact with several heroes, and you begin to develop different relationships with each of them depending on how your fights with them go, Nemesis system style. You start off as a petty crook and slowly upgrade your gear and personal stats until you're supervillain status. Along the way, you can fully customize your look, adopt a new persona and emblem, and of course, you get to choose your own name. What say you? For that reason, I'm in. I love it. I'm running out of water. I had an idea with some friends of mine back in the day. We fantasized about the idea of making a Batman MMO where you're not Batman, where you can be a cop, or you can be a criminal, or you can be a supervillain, or you can be a vigilante, or you can just be a business person, or you can be a trader, or you can be a gangster, or you can be just anybody, but you can't be the Riddler, you can't be Joker, you can't be Batman, you can't be Nightwing. Those characters are played by the staff, are played by people that work for the developer. So when you're in Gotham, you see Batman go by, that's a player, that's Batman. Like, that's actually, and like different people play him, and maybe you can have people like mods or something like that move up to, Batman, Robin, Red Hood status. But that would be so cool. It'd be fun to have Superman come in every now and then and like set things straight. But Confused Hulk, I love it. There's nothing about that idea I don't love. That's great. Kind of reminds me of Warlord. I know not in like the style, but like there's not many games where they're like, you're the villain. Wahahaha. What's the Politico? Is that the one where it's like a tropical island and you're like a big crazy dictator and you just do terrible, terrible things? Yeah, that'd be fun. If it was playful, that'd be fun. Irunian, the release of this week of Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, an NES Castlevania-style game in the Bloodstained universe, and created as a stretch goal from the Kickstarter, which is excellent. I beat it. It's fun. Got me curious as to your history with Castlevania itself. It's only $10. So worth it. Any fond memories of the series, or is it one you've mostly missed out on over the years? No. I am well versed in Castlevania. We did a Castlevania retrospective back at Game Trailers where I went back and played. Hey, look at that. We're only at an hour and 15 minutes. We're making really good progress. We only got a couple pages left. Feeling good. We did a retro, and if I did a retro of something, that means I sampled or extensively perused every game in that series, and I definitely did that. My own personal experience with Castlevania, though, leading up before I did that retrospective, my introduction was, of course, the original Castlevania. That game was hard as heck. I did not beat Castlevania until I did that retrospective, and even then, I don't think I beat it. I think I beat it with save states. So, that game is hard. I really like Simon's Quest. I didn't get into Castlevania 3 on the NES, unfortunately, which is the best. Castlevania 3 is the best NES Castlevania. That is a really, really good game. That is a big, deep, crazy game. Curse of the Moon, the Bloodstained game, most similarly reminds me the most of Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. But I played a lot of Castlevania 1 and 2. I think I beat 2 because 2 is not hard if you know what to do. If you don't have a guide, it's a little tricky. I love the Tropico, Politico in a tropical island. Sorry, Tropico, not Politico. Tropico. Chad is correcting me. Thank you. And then eventually I played Symphony of the Night, and I really liked Symphony of the Night. I didn't play Rondo of Blood or the other weird Bloodlines, the other weird Genesis game. I didn't play those. until the retro. I didn't play any of the Game Boy or Kid Dracula, any of that stuff until the retro. I think I started Lament of Innocence. I didn't finish it. I remember playing Castlevania 64 and being like, yuck, I don't like this. But of course, played through all of that. Not Nightmare, those two games for the retro. And I don't think I played any of the DS games because that was by the time our review team was really set up at Game Trailers, and so those would be handed off to other people. I completely missed all of those games and then didn't get into them until we did the retro. But there is no Castlevania game that I have played more than Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo. That game is so good. I love that game so much. I love everything. There's no bad part of that level. Every piece of music. It's just the right type of difficulty. I beat it several times, but it still terrifies me every time I play it because it is so tricky. And it is just a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous game. Aria of Sorrow, great. Didn't play it when it came out, but yeah, that game on Super Nintendo. Kola Aina, we all love Kyle. Can you tell us what you love about him? Do we all love Kyle, really? Do we? Should I do a bit first? I gotta get more water, I'm sorry. I'm gonna think about how much I love Kyle. I'll be right back. Yeah, Kyle's alright. I guess. I don't know. I'll tell you why I love Kyle, because I can do bits like this. That's why I love Kyle. Kyle, one of the things that I always wait for whenever we would have a new employee at Game Trailers is the first time that employee would not talk back to me, but give me a hard time. Kind of, give me the elbow, you know what I mean? Nudge, nudge. Like, when I could tell that person was having fun, starting to loosen up a little bit, starting to joke. Whenever Ben does something like that, whenever Ben Moore, stone-faced, says something that I'm like, was that a joke? Like, because there's some allies that do that stuff more often, and nobody does that more than Kyle. Maybe Damiani does. But Kyle and I just match in that way with our attitudes about really knowing what the other person finds funny, how far we can push that person, and how that we can play up that animosity and the fact that, working together is so difficult. He reminds me of my Uncle Dick. Uncle Dick. Rest in peace. Uncle Dick really, as a child, introduced me to being a smartass. Introduced me to, we'd go out to dinner, and he would give waiters and waitresses a hard time. Like, he could never just order food. He would be like, do you have any sarsaparilla? And they're like, what? And he's like, sarsaparilla. They're like, sorry, sir, we don't have. I don't even know what sarsaparilla is. What's that? He's like, and I'm like, that's. My mom's like, it's like iced tea. He's just messing with you. He doesn't want sarsaparilla. But he would just dead-faced, deadpan, like, do you have any sarsaparilla? My uncle and I, we would talk about like women we were dating. When I would hang out with him, and I'm like, 10 years old, and we're like joking about this. He's like, so, how's Margaret? Weren't you dating Margaret? And I was like, no, Uncle Dick, Margaret was last month. This month I'm dating Barbara. I told you about Barbara. And he's like, oh yeah, Barbara. And I'm like, yeah, but don't tell Denise about Barbara, and we would just do this for hours. My mom would just sit like, where is this coming from in my child that like I would just love BSing with him, and so I think that's what I love about Kyle, because Kyle is very inventive in that way. Kyle is creative. We're all creative here at Easy Allies, but his creativity is, I think, faster, is sharper. I think he can eat more. He can more easily than most of us, assemble a funny idea and make it happen and put it forth without a lot of effort and not really stumble when he does it. He's really good at handling issues when things go wrong. It was interesting to find his limit when we started Easy Allies, because Kyle's limit is when he's planned a stream like Hall of Greats or a tournament and we don't care about the rules. That's when you get real Kyle. That's when Kyle with a fourth wall comes down and Kyle's like, look. I put a lot of work into this. Pay attention, damn it. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot to really to break that charming veneer of Kyle that I think he does so well. Yeah, he puts on a good show. Kyle's a very entertaining individual. And Kyle works hard. Kyle really cares about Easy Allies. He really cares about the quality of the work that we do. He really cares about putting our best foot forward. He really cares about the most crazy, minuscule things. There's so many times in Slack that Kyle will be like, what about this? And we're like, no, Kyle, be quiet. But I love that he's thinking about that stuff. I love that he's exploring every avenue and being like, I'm so nervous about this thing happening. I never want him to be nervous, but at the same time, it's nice to have somebody that's freaking out about things that you're not freaking out about. And Kyle freaks out like the best of them. So cheers to you, Kyle Bossman. Love you. Now back to making fun of Kyle. Davis, do you believe we'll see a hardware upgrade for the Switch in the near future? No. Similar to PS4 Pro? No. If so, what do you believe the timeline would be for such an upgrade? Or do you believe that Nintendo has no true incentive to upgrade hardware to reach even the current capacity of a regular PS4 Xbone? Ding. I wonder if this doesn't happen, it could really hinder the growth of the Switch. No, as you guys readily believe the next gen is coming as early as 2019. Excuse me, if this becomes the case, the already outdated technical nature of the Switch could show as very lacking and lose most AAA third-party support. Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of AAA third-party support right now. It has some, and it's fun, it's exciting, the Resident Evil and Doom, and there's some fun stuff happening there. I think the Switch is great for Stardew Valley and Pixel Junk Monsters 2. And obviously all of Nintendo's incredible first-party exclusives will continue to, Metroid hasn't come out yet, Animal Crossing hasn't come out yet, Star Fox hasn't come out. Like, there's so many games that have not come out yet on the Switch, and so many of their like long-standing franchises. Smash Brothers. It's like every single one of these things is going to be another like record-breaking month for this console. I think maybe they'll release a lighter version down the road, but they're not going to have some crazy new powerhouse thing, like 2020 maybe. I think would be the earliest they're going to do that. I doubt it. Matt Kurlowski. Yeah, I think the Y is silent. Man, I gotta write these down. I'm so terrible writing down pronunciations. I used to write down pronunciations when we did podcast sponsors, but I don't do that now that we have Cup of Jones. But maybe I should have a pronunciation list up on the side, and I should type those in. Now that I have my laptop up. Live and learn. Are there any games you feel invested in even if you don't play them? I find myself still rooting for Street Fighter to do well, even though I'm terrible at it and haven't really played it since the SNES days, but it brings back a nostalgia of sitting next to my brothers as they played it. The art style and the characters are great, and Puzzle Fighter, a semi-spin-off of Street Fighter, is my all-time favorite puzzle game. I feel similarly to Resident Evil, too scared to play it myself, but love for others to play it on Twitch. Do you feel this way about any games? I feel this way about lots of MMOs. I feel this way about Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft. They're two games that I've played previously, do not play now. Wish I had all the time in the world to play, but I don't. And I still love to check in. Just kind of be like, hey, how's that going? I had an interesting conversation the other day at a party with some friends that used to play World of Warcraft a lot. And I was like, are you still playing? And they're like, no, we're done. It was fun at the time, but you got to say goodbye to something, sooner or later. And so it's neat to check in. I love living vicariously through Michael Damiani, who plays 14 a lot. Because I love the idea of a digital world that is persistent. I wish I could play more Grand Theft Auto Online than I do. I love running around that just crazy anarchy of a video game. I feel that way kind of about Blizzard. Like Overwatch, I feel connected to. I love the characters of Overwatch, even though I never really got into that game. Amanda plays Hearthstone every single day, so I still feel connected to Hearthstone. Certainly through the allies, I mean, any game that Michael Huber likes, you feel like you've played as well, so there's all that stuff too. Oh, yes, cool, great. Love saying your name during the podcast producer credits. Oh, yes, cool, great. Oh, yes, cool, great. I was very much looking forward to a good rant from you on Mary Poppins in last week's podcast. Huber expressed that we needed to hear your take on the IP so you could answer that burning question in our hearts. What do you think of Mary Poppins? I must have talked about this on Cup of Jones, right? If I haven't, let's do it. We'll get into it right now. I'll say this as quick as I possibly can. I have no problems with the Mary Poppins IP. Mary Poppins is a lovely IP. The books are lovely. The film was lovely with Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke. It was a pioneer in the experimentation of live action and animated characters being brought together. It's great. It's actually how much I love the original Mary Poppins that I have an issue with Mary Poppins Returns. My issue with Mary Poppins Returns, and I have simplified my concerns with that film to one simple request. And I ask that of all of you right now here on Cup of Jones. You have to admit that recasting the central titular character of a well-known 50-plus-year-old film is weird. It's weird. It's strange. And pretending like nothing happened. Amanda brought up Solo the other day and was like, what about Solo? It's like, well, it's a prequel. They have to, So it's like, yeah, I'm familiar with that where you make prequels. Like, you have Alec Guinness and then you do a prequel. And so because of age, you need to recast it. And so you recast, Ewan McGregor. Then you have Ewan McGregor come in. And then Ewan McGregor's like, I'm going to do the best I can. But so I'm going to be like a young Alec Guinness. And so it's always weird to me when you have like a person. It's one thing if you're like adapting, like, it's like you got to cast someone as Gandalf. And you're like, well, I already have my opinions of what Gandalf is like. So we'll see what Ian McKellen does. And then you see Ian McKellen and you're like, oh, this is fun. Like, it's not my Gandalf. It's his Gandalf. It's like a new Gandalf. But you have someone like Ewan McGregor come in and he's like, I can't do that because I already have this incredibly prolific classic, popular actor that came in and played, like, whether he liked it or not, the role of his career. And I gotta like do him kinda. So I gotta like be me and bring what I want to bring to the role, but I gotta like do his cadence at the same time. And it's never gonna attain the level of like, that's it, you did it. It's like, at least for me, like I'm never gonna do that point where it's like, oh, it's Obi-Wan. It's like, no, it's Ewan McGregor doing his best, and it's entertaining and I'm into it and I can get into the lore, but it's weird because it's like Frank Caliendo doing Madden. It's like, I'm John Madden, everybody, and you're like, ha 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 ha. And then, and I guess that's my attitude. Is like I see like, somebody do an impersonation of somebody, like a comedian, and I'm like, that's hilarious. And then you see like Emily Blunt doing Mary Poppins, and I'm like, ha 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 ha. Oh, this isn't funny? Oh, okay. So that impersonation of a celebrity is not funny, but this one is like, no, everyone, that's Mary Poppins. And it's not. It's another actress coming in and doing an impersonation, like doing stand-up, being like, I'm Julie Andrews. And that's just weird to me. It's very strange. This kind of like retconning of an actor. And I'm also a little sensitive about this kind of stuff because my wife is an actress, and so there's a lot of like, nah, you don't need to recast that person, just CG it, you're fine. Like we're getting into that era of kids like, I don't care if it's an actor. It's like, I remember Futurama, when the cast of Futurama was in danger of losing their jobs, and there were a lot of executives at Fox that were like, do you really need Billy West and John DiMaggio and Katie Siegel? And we're like, yes, of course you do. And the fan base was like, yes, you need those people for me to consider it that. Like, if you're gonna recast it, do another show. And so Mary Poppins Returns is like if all of the Futurama fans didn't care. It's like if they recast The Simpsons and no one cared. And everyone was like, oh, they recast it? I couldn't tell. And that's like scary, where you're like, oh no, can we just do that with everything now? Can we have like a new Bond every movie? And like, sure, whatever. Like I don't care. It's like, so it's just, that's it. It's me caring that like, this is weird. Like, reboot Mary Poppins. Don't do this weird sequel. Don't have her come in and look in the mirror and be like, I'm back. It's like, you're not. You are another actor doing an impersonation of another actor doing their version of a literary character. And that weird mental gymnastics I have to do to get to the point where I'm enjoying the new film, I've never seen another film that's done that. And so I don't necessarily need you to agree with me that bothers you, because if it doesn't, awesome. But you have to agree it's weird. That's weird. That's a weird journey that you have to take to land at enjoying Mary Poppins Returns. That's it. So yeah, so you got to admit it. That's strange. I think you have to. I think you have to admit that that's unusual. That there's not many examples. I'm looking. How about Hook? I mean, none of the people were the same, and it was animated. Yeah, and this is besides the point that I'm sure Mary Poppins Returns will be a delightful film. I'm sure the new music in it will be great. I'm sure the performances will be charming as hell. I'm sure that movie's gonna be great. It's just the process of making it that I feel is extremely unique. And a lot of people are like, well, it's another movie, big deal. And you're like, oh, well, it's, As a film major, I like to mark the significance of how unusual that movie is. That's it. Tyler Manning, I want to ask your thoughts on Rockstar calling their newest game Red Dead Redemption 2 instead of Red Dead 3 or Red Dead whatever. Red Dead Revenge was what I thought it was going to be called. They seem to want to pretend that Red Dead Revolver doesn't actually exist. It bugs me a little bit personally because I played Red Dead Revolver first and really enjoyed that game. Plus, it's not like the new games didn't inherit anything from Revolver. Deadeye is pulled straight from that game. So, despite the fact that it's Red Dead Redemption 2, I still call it Red Dead 3 because I hate chronologically confusing sequel titles. For me, it's akin to Bethesda coming out with Elder Scrolls 6 Skyrim 2. I know it doesn't really matter, but I just wanted to know your thoughts. It doesn't matter to me, Tyler, and I'll tell you why. It doesn't bother me. But see, this is why, Brandon, take down the new Mary Poppins with a spoonful of sugar. Again, the movie's going to be fine. The movie itself is not the issue. I haven't seen it. I can't complain about a movie I haven't seen. Tyler, here's the thing. Rockstar didn't make Red Dead Revolver, and that's the main thing. They made a game called Red Dead Redemption because they got the rights to the series. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were not involved in Revolver. And then got the rights because they wanted to make a sequel. And there isn't a connection. I do not think there's a direct connection. I think it's like a GTA 3 to GTA 4 situation where Red Dead Redemption is not the sequel of Red Dead Revolver. Those are not the same characters. There's like a hint at some of them, like stylistically, and maybe some of the names carry over, but that is not a directly connected world. Where Red Dead Redemption 2 to Red Dead Redemption 1 is. It is a prequel to that game. They're trying to use language right now where they're like, nah, it's not really a prequel. It is. I think they don't want people to get their expectations up that it's going to be like John Marston Rides Again. Like, John Marston is not going to be the central focus. It's going to be a different character with different problems and different locations for the most part. Looks like Blackwater we're going back to. But I just think they want to be free to change things and not have people be like, well, wait a minute. In the first game, I read a note where it said that city wasn't built yet. So I think that's why they called it Redemption 2. I was surprised. I thought they were going to call it something else. But technically, Red Dead Redemption is the Rockstar franchise. So that's why they are continuing that. If they make another one, it'll be called Red Dead Redemption 3. Whether that'll have Roman numerals, I don't know. But yeah. So I think that's why they didn't want to really attack on Revolver to it, not because they're like, we don't like Revolver, but because like we don't own Revolver. Like, we don't want to claim ownership over that. We don't want people assuming that we also made that one. We want that to be owned and to be considered a product of the team that put it together. And who that was, I don't know. I don't have that information. And I never played Revolver. I played it for like a second just to like pop it in and be like, what's up with this game? Oh, okay. But I never played it all the way through. That might be a fun stream someday. Daniel Askew, this is my first question ever asked. Cheers, Daniel. You're stranded on a deserted island and only have a machine with which to make clones of yourself. What do? I make clones of myself. Right? That's where that's going, right? I make clones and then maybe eat them? I don't know. That's ultimately where that's going, I guess. Beep boop boop. I want to make a clone, but have it not be alive. Beep beep boop 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 boop. And then just like, delicious Brandon. Yeah, I'd make like 2 or 3 clones so we can like just hang out, and then the rest would just be food. I would just eat those. I'd be like, can you just blend it? Can you make like a Brandon smoothie? So I can... I'll go there. It's fine. David Warren, my friend Casey just got engaged while on vacation in Japan. My wife and I both think you look and act very similar to him, just about 10 years older. Any chance you could do us a solid and act as if you just emerged from a time machine to deliver us an important message about, Casey, it's me, I mean you, from the future. I had to come back and tell you, those ice cream first filled waffles were a mistake. But don't worry, marrying Ashley works out just great, or something like that. He'd get a kick out of it. Okay, we're going to do this. Are you ready? I'm going to come in from the time machine, and we're going to record this. I'm actually going to kill the music so he doesn't have the jazz. So we don't need the jazz for this. Okay. It's me, I mean you, from the future. I'd come back and tell you those ice cream-filled waffles were a mistake, but don't worry, marrying Ashley works out great. Ice cream-filled waffles, marrying Ashley works out great. Okay. And Casey. Casey, ice cream-filled waffles, Ashley. Got it. Casey! Casey, what's up? It's me. It's you. It's me, you. I'm from the future. I just came back from the future. I only have a little bit of time, so I just wanted to tell you the ice cream-filled waffles were a mistake. It was a bad idea, those ice cream-filled waffles. Good news. Marrying Ashley was a good idea. That works out really well. But the waffles, again, I cannot iterate more. Bad idea. Learn from that mistake. Treat Ashley well, and everything's going to work out great. I got to go. All right, there you go. I don't get a lot of those, so I got to warn y'all. I'm not doing a lot of that. But there you go. Hopefully that worked out. Billy Ranto, my 3 favorite comedies, rank the significance. And if you could share a few thoughts about them and your own favorites. I conveniently have not really gone through all of these shows. So I think I'm a good person to rank their significance. A, Arrested Development. B, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And C, The Office, the United States version of The Office. I would say The Office would be number 1, Arrested Development would be number 2, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia would be number 3. They all look really fun. The Office is just super, super crazy popular, which is why I put it at number 1. I think Arrested Development, I see more chatter about it. I think there's like a bigger cast. There's just kind of like a wider net that Arrested Development seems to have over the industry. But It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has been on for a really long time and looks hilarious. I've had all of these shows recommended to me, and all of them look great. I think of all of these shows, I've probably experienced the most of Arrested Development, but I've just never really sat and watched like episode after episode after episode. They are not shows I have invested in. A few thoughts about them and your own favorites. They all are really funny, though. What I remember about Sunny, when Sunny first started, was I think it started like the year Seinfeld stopped. So a lot of people were like, it's great. It's like Seinfeld, except they have no backbone at all. Like, what if Seinfeld was even worse? And of course, Danny DeVito's really great. The guy, there's Charlie, the guy who's in the meme where he's all crazy. Charlie Day, I think is his name. And then there's the guy with the beard who I think like works in the bar. And then there's the blonde, and then the other guy, the nerdy looking guy with the curly hair. He used to go to my gym. There. Long story short. I don't go to that gym anymore, so maybe he still goes. But I don't go to that gym. Well, I don't know, my favorite shows? I mean, these are all comedies. So, I love the HBO comedies. I loved Barry. I loved Silicon Valley. Had really good seasons this year. What are like funny shows I used to watch? I never really got into. I mean, I watched like Home Improvement back in the day, and certainly I watched like Full House and Family Matters and all of that stuff when I was a kid. But yeah, I've kind of gotten out of like the comedy show vibe. I tend to watch like Westworld and Game of Thrones, and again, more HBO stuff coming up. And I love a good documentary series. I've kind of gotten Making a Murderer and Evil Genius and stuff like that. Kind of got hooked on those. For all of you that know, I love my Forensic Files. And I love this. We're getting it under 2 hours today. Feels good. Maybe I'm speeding things up now that I'm at the desk. I don't know. Markmon131. I was finishing up university, during which I had a fuck all time, as we say in Ireland. So I listened to Easy A shows at double time. Now that I'm finished and qualified to apply to become a professional star looker adder, I have time to listen at normal speed, and boy is it weird. You all sound drunk. So I guess my question is, do you notice that yourself with all the editing that you do? That we sound drunk? No, I definitely listen to things faster sometimes when I listen to Easy Ally stuff. I listened to the Busted Trifecta Part 2. Also, not to jump on Don's toes, Busted Trifecta Part 3. now up on Easy Allies. It went up the second that we started this Cup of Jones. I probably should have mentioned that at the top. But I listened to Busted Trifecta Part 2, and I kind of liked it, actually, being sped up. I thought that was fun. I know a lot of people say that they're behind on stuff, that they don't have time to watch all of our streams and our shows. So, like, maybe that's a good suggestion. Just up that speed. But do I notice that we sound drunk? No. I do listen to the podcast a little bit faster, but it's not in a YouTube way. It's in a... it doesn't sound like the way YouTube does it is fun because you can actually kind of follow it at the same time, or the way that I listen to it in Premiere, like super fast when I'm editing it, is not something that's it works well in referencing something I'm familiar with. Like I've heard this podcast before, so I know where I'm at right now, but it's not a good thing to actually process the information for the first time. I don't notice all of us sounding drunk, Markmon, but I'm glad that you've gone back down to normal speed. Don't feel bad if you have to speed it up again. All right, takeaways. See what the heck we're not doing to not get on the top game creators list on Patreon. Consider dancing one more time, because we did promise to back in our drive, and get some betting shirts. Rob Bob Will asked a fun question, and I don't know if it'll necessarily make for the craziest editorial, but I thought I would separate it, because I think it is just a story that they related. It's not a business question or a personal question. So let's do our editorial. Where'd my lower third go? Give me my lower third. Oh, whoops. Hold on. There we go. It's so silly. Like all of you. Oh, Brandon Jones. Oh, okay. That's who's talking. Got it. But that'll never happen again. Let me just ensure that never happens again. Hold on. Maybe this will, yeah. Boom. I overwrote the last file. Is that the horse racing show that was shown at the concert? Yes. That is Don Casanova. Just Google Busted Trifecta Easy Allies. Or to check out part 3, go to youtube.com/Easy Allies right now, or after my editorial. Rob Bob Will. I thought this was a fun comment. I had been meaning to leave a comment about the strange YouTube journey I've been on. I've really only ever had enough free time to watch one gaming channel's content, so I've sort of wandered from channel to channel, enjoying content, but eventually getting annoyed, generally by either negativity or immaturity, and moving on. Each move felt like it was moving a little closer to what I wanted, but only ever in small degrees. It's not like you can search Google for great internet community. You have to traverse this endless web of guests on podcasts and guests on those people's podcasts in order to find what you like. I'm not sure of the exact time when this started, but my best guess would be late 2013. It ended, however, when I found my own little internet home at Easy Allies. Of all the places, this is the only one where I've made any kind of comment or any communication at all, really. For the record, here's a quick recap, and I love this. So he begins with the co-optional podcast with the late, the great Mr. Total Biscuit, Jesse Cox, and Dodger. Then he moved on to Northern Lion, which I am not familiar with, the Roundtable podcast from that group. Then the Super Beard Brothers, who I am familiar with, aka Gerard the Completionist. Then Day 9, he mentions, to be fair, I still occasionally camp out here for an excellent point and click game series. Oh, point and click game series. But yeah, I do not know of Day 9. Then Zero Punctuation, which was one of our brother shows, sister shows, when we were at Defy Media. Got to work with Yahtzee a little bit, and I've definitely long been a fan of Zero Punctuation, which naturally it seems would bring you to Mr. Jim Sterling, and which interesting connection from Jim Sterling to GameSpot, and specifically Danny O'Dwyer, who of course is now at NoClip, who just announced that they're going to be doing a lot of features with Fallout 76. So kudos to Mr. Danny O'Dwyer for pulling that off. And then through Danny O'Dwyer's connection, then discovered Kinda Funny, and then through Kinda Funny, discovered Easy Allies. The original point I was going to make was somewhat negative, lamenting the podcast web and wishing that if I had only stumbled across Game Trailers back in 2013 instead, I could have enjoyed that home sooner and avoided those years of being an internet vagabond. But considering the news today about Total Biscuit, I'm realizing it's more of an appreciation of the obnoxious British man who started this whole journey. Without him, I may never have found my way here in the first place. My take is that games category is supposed to be people making games, but who knows? No Clip isn't making games, and What Good Games isn't making games, and they're on that list, so yeah, who knows? Day 9 is the guy hosting the PC show at E3. Okay, cool. It's tough because I think about knowing Amanda, and I think, wow, I knew Amanda. Amanda's so great, and there was clearly times when Amanda was living in Los Angeles, and I was living in Los Angeles, and we could have been dating then. And what would my life have been like if we had? What if I had met her earlier? Then I wouldn't have dated all those people that I should have been dating Amanda at the time and shouldn't have been dating them. But I don't know. Things work out pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now as far as my marriage is concerned. And so, while yes, it was a journey to get to us, I don't know if you would have necessarily loved everything that we were doing in 2013. I don't know if we were ready for you yet, Rob. Maybe you needed this journey, and I think this is a fascinating journey, and I really appreciate you going through it detail by detail, because it does show what hopefully is the organic process of discovering people and discovering a home that you like. And it is a really profound compliment, I think, for you to say that you experienced all of this other content and then now have settled in a way here at Easy Allies. I hope you go and camp out at Day 9. I hope you still go back and enjoy a lot of the work that these people do, because I definitely do, and I love Jim Sterling. We also briefly worked with. We were there at Defy before he left, so we did work with Jim for a little bit. But I love all of these people. I love everybody that you mentioned, and so it's neat to see. It's like 6 degrees of co-optional, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 degrees of the co-optional podcast. And I think this editorial also brings up a excellent opportunity to pour one out for Mr. John Bain, Mr. Total Biscuit, who we lost last week, or earlier. What day is it? Thursday? This week? Earlier this week? That might not necessarily have been a shock, because he was, he'd been battling cancer for a very long time, but there were many different periods. It was not only, his death was profound, but him talking about kind of sunsetting his work, and I think that's really something that is fascinating me in this social era of ours, where we create contents and we create accounts. We have a Facebook account, you have a Twitter account, you have an Instagram account, you have a pulse, you have a thing that is connecting you to a community that is outside of you. It is your voice, but you are not that company. You are not your Twitter account, you are yourself, but that Twitter account does kind of project you out into the world. And so when you lose someone, when someone dies, it's really interesting, uncomfortable question of what happens then to these accounts. What happens then, to this echo that it will, potentially reverberate much longer than you would ever have to, no matter how long you had lived. It's crazy to think of radio signals that we're sending out into space. Keep going. They just one thing that makes me feel great, no matter how long I live and no matter how much content I produce, is the fact that our signal, our work that we are creating is just going to keep going. It's going to keep on going out into the world, and will hopefully exist in this universe forever. And so it's interesting having John have people close to him that were able to communicate the struggles that he was facing in the last days of his life, and then ultimately notify us when John had passed. And I have to be honest, I don't know a lot about John. I did not really follow John's career. The first time I ever heard about Total Biscuit was when he was nominated for Trending Gamer. I think his name might have come up in passing, but I certainly couldn't have spotted him in a crowd, could not have told you what he sounds like, could not have described his work. And but he won the Trending Gamer award, and then after we closed Game Trailers and started up Easy Allies, he had me on the Co-optional podcast, and I'm in debt to him, and I will always be in debt to people like Kind of Funny and people that reached out to us and were very helpful in us communicating the changes that were happening with our group before we were able to do that on our own channel. And he seemed like a really nice guy. He seems very outspoken. I think that one of the things that's fascinating about people offering their own eulogies and thoughts about him are that a lot of people kept mentioning how much they disagreed with him. Kept mentioning, boy, I never really agreed with that guy, but I loved him. And I think that's really saying something, that you can be really outspoken, you can make your opinions clear, but at the same time, you can have such strong relationships in this industry with people. Again, I'm not that familiar with his career, so I know a lot of people were frustrated about some of the things that he did, so I can't speak to all of that stuff because I have not done my research. I'm just commenting based on sentiments that I've seen on social media lately and my own limited experience of working with John and the few rare opportunities that I had to do so. And so, I thank you, John, for the work that you've done in this industry, and for Rob, for bringing us Rob in such a crazy journey all the way through the Co-optional podcast, Northern Lion, Super Beard Brothers, Day 9, Zero Punctuation, Jim Sterling, GameSpot, Danny O'Dwyer, Kind of Funny, Easy Allies. I'd be curious to actually hear all of your journeys, where you found us, when you found us, and maybe other things that you explored beforehand. I appreciate this also because I can communicate with you as someone who's in production. We have lots of fans that produce stuff on their own, that have their own YouTube channels, that have also jobs in the games industry or jobs in video production. So we can connect on that level. We can always connect on playing video games because we do that. Sometimes I play video games before you get a chance to. Sometimes I can afford things that you can't afford. And so I apologize for that access that I am given that sometimes is not available to you. But we both play games, so hopefully we can meet on that level of just understanding what makes games great, what's great about games that brings us together. But one thing that we will never connect on, ever, that's until I go and buy a farm in Northern California after all the governments collapse and the zombie apocalypse happens, and I just go grow corn somewhere, and Sophie and I are just out in the fields every day. Me and my, what am I looking for? My overalls, in the dirt, planting peas. And I officially call it quits. And I'm just like, all right, I'm done with production. Like, it's not going to happen anytime soon because I love this work too much. But while I'm doing it, it is impossible for me to get this perspective, to get the perspective of someone who is just not creating their own content, but just absorbing the content created by others in the gaming space and moving from one channel to another and trying to determine what they like about each channel and what rewards they get from them, what bonuses, what perks there are to being involved in that community. And in our case, furthermore, what perks they get from investing in it, and getting stuff back through Patreon and through our channel and through the live streaming that we do. So that's why all of your takes like this are so valuable to me, to give me this perspective of seeing someone's journey and understanding it, and understanding how those connections could have happened, how your understanding of how these communities work could have evolved, having met all of these different people, and how there is no right or wrong answer. Like, there is no community that is inherently bad, I think, in the gaming space when it comes to the people in it. Communities have histories, certainly, and communities have their best and worst moments, but I don't think you can, be like, yes, all of that is just terrible. I think there are definitely communities that are built for different types of people, and hopefully we can all reach across the aisle and all share hands someday and all get along, but likely not going to happen today or this year or anytime soon. Hogue had a fun journey. What's Hogue's journey? Oh, I missed it. Sorry. But if you're in the comments, you can check it out. Hogue said something profound. And thank you. Yeah, I got it. We're almost under 2 hours. It'd be great for this to be under 2 hours, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Bless you, John. Hope you are dancing with the angels. Thank you, Rob Bobwell, for being a fan and for hanging out, and I'm happy that you found us. And I'm hope that everybody's cool with this new format, because I'm kind of cozy with this, actually. I was like, I'll just do it on the desk, and maybe that'll be weird with the new setup, but I'm kind of digging this. I hope it sounds okay. I didn't want to get too close to the mic, because then I vanish behind the But hopefully I'm close enough. I was never really that close to the Yeti, and it still sounded okay. I think when you have the podcast and like some people are far back and some people are really close, and you can hear that difference between the voices, then it sounds weird. But Steven CT likes this setup. Jasmine is loving this format. Baptiste Charlotte, it is weird but cool. Overall audio too quiet. Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what the mixer should be set at, but maybe I'll crank it up next week. I've actually been kind of loud as of late, so maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to up things. New format is winner. We'll be a little louder next time. But cool. There you go. There's your Cup of Jones. 2 minutes shy of 2 hours. Let's wrap it up. Thank you for all the comments. Again, leave your questions and comments in the comments below on this post, and I will answer them next week. It is Thursday. Apologies for not being around on Tuesday. We were still setting up the equipment. I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to do this at the time, but now I know. So we will be back next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, for another episode of Cup of Jones, Shooting Fiasconauts and Friend Code later today, and streaming Wild West online, if all goes well, tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Join me for that, and thank you so much for watching, everybody. Cheers.